A very warm welcome to the show and welcome back from Smart Means Business. This is, of course, Financial Markets. It's the Monday edition. My name is Anthony Sebale and I am your host. Now, remember, the show is proudly brought to you by Altex East Africa, your number one trading platform. And with Altex East Africa, we're saying under Zabu, you can do something new. All you need to do is to simply get to your phone and dial *292#. And following the prompts, you can be able, first of all, to register with Altex East Africa, and you can also be able to start your journey of investment. Now, Altex is saying that your funds are secure with Altex East Africa Trading, and this is because they are licensed by the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda. And of course, they give you treasury bond markets here in East Africa, in Uganda, in Kenya, and Tanzania as well, at the biggest markets of trade within the region. Altex East Africa is saying you can do something new because they give you access and also affordability. With as little as 15,000, you can start that investment in your favorite treasury bonds here within East Africa. Altex East Africa, my money, my future, doing something new. Let's delve into the business of trading here. Today is Monday, the 13th, rather the 12th of June. And when you look at yesterday and Saturday, the markets were closed. However, also on Friday in Uganda, the markets were closed because it was National Heroes Day. So today is going to be the first day we open up the markets since Thursday after a very, very long weekend. But let's look at the markets elsewhere in Africa and see how the markets played out on Friday before the close of the week. Now, as for the trading, let's start off with West Africa. And we start with Ghana Stock Exchange there in West Africa. Now, Ghana Stock Exchange currently has 38 listings on their main board, that is on the Ghana Stock Exchange main board of trade. And also, as of 9th June 2023, they had at least a total of 10,013 shares traded in their daily record, and corresponding to a market value of 2.5 millions. Now, compared to Thursday trading on Ghana Stock Exchange, there was an improvement slightly in terms of the participants in the trade. However, the decline was registered in the volumes that were traded. The volumes declined at least by 71%, whereas the current market capitalization is at 67.2 billion. In aggregate, 9 Ghana Stock Exchange listings participated in trade, and the day unfortunately ended with no gainers and just no losers as well. EcoBank Transnational recorded the highest volume at just 9,084 shares that were traded. Now, what is EcoBank Transnational Incorporation? Now, this is a Pan-African banking conglomerate with banking operations in over about 33 African countries here. And it's a leading independent regional banking group in West Africa and Central Africa as well, serving, of course, wholesale and retail customers in West Africa and Central Africa. The company maintains subsidiaries within East Africa as well and Southern Africa. And the ETI has representative offices in Angola, as well as in China, Dubai, France, and South Africa, as well as in the UK. In 2011, December, the Bank of Ghana gave approval for EcoBank to actually acquire 100% interest in the Trust Bank of Ghana there. EcoBank Transnational currently holds about 3.60 billion in market capitalization on the Ghana Stock Exchange, representing 5.37% of the entire Ghana Stock Exchange equity market. Currently, that makes it the 5th most valuable stock on the Ghana Stock Exchange. And that is EcoBank for you. On Friday, they closed the day with 0.15 gauchos, that is the Ghanaian currency there. And this was after a day of no movement in price, meaning there was no change in price. And the price has been stagnant since last year in October. In Ghana, things seem to be a little bit eased off due to, of course, first of all, very little participation in the market, especially from the local investors. which is a challenge that cuts across many of the African countries. There is limited participation, very limited participation from especially local investors. And we see many of the investors here in Ghana as well being foreign, coming from countries like China, in the UK, France, and the like. So there is still a challenge, just like we have here in Uganda, just like within East Africa, of an influx of foreign investors. Now, let's look at the performance of the stock. It's currently the 5th most traded on stock on Ghana Stock Exchange over the past 3 months. From the 9th of March to the 9th of June, they have traded at least 714,000 shares. And this proves at least about a volume of about 107,000 Ghanaian gauchos there on the Ghana Stock Exchange. That's EcoBank, transnational bank there. And this was the biggest volume trader for Friday on Ghana Stock Exchange. Elsewhere, MTN Ghana at least also had 596 shares that were traded on the Ghana Stock Exchange. SIC Insurance Company as well came in with 180 shares, whereas the GCB Bank at least traded 100 shares on the Ghana Stock Exchange. That's it from Ghana. Let's get elsewhere in Africa. Johannesburg Stock Exchange on their last day of trading last Friday lost 79 points on their benchmark index, which is the famous J203. Now, currently, the Johannesburg Stock Exchange has 422 companies that are currently listed on their main board of the trade there. And now, when you look at on Friday's participation in trade, we had quite a number of diverse participants. About 312 companies participated in trade on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Now, the listings at least ended the day with 155 gainers and 147 losers, with Kibo Energies coming out at the top of the gainers there on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Now, Chibo Energies led the gainers at 50% appreciation in price, closing off the day at 0.03 South African rand. Now, what is Kibo Energy? Kibo Energy is a multi-asset energy company that is engaged in business of the development and operation of thermal coal power plants in different South African nations, including Botswana, Mozambique, and as well as Tanzania. The company's shares are listed on the alternative investment markets of the London Stock Exchange and, of course, the OTEX of Johannesburg Stock Exchange. Now, there's a possibility for a stock to be listed, first of all, on a different stock exchange in a different continent. We've seen that for quite a number of companies, especially now for stocks that are well developed like those on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We do have on Johannesburg Stock Exchange companies like Palladium Minerals. Palladium Minerals is an Australian company that's mainly listed on Australian stock exchanges, but is cross-listed on Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So likewise, Kibo Energy is a multi-asset energy company that is cross-listed on, first of all, London Stock Exchange, but mainly listed on the OTEX Stock Exchange. Now, OTEX is another stock exchange in South Africa that is actually having quite a number of stocks. You know, they pick a few stocks here and there, and then you have an exchange separate from the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. So that is one of the things that you must take note of, that a company can be listed domestically, and then it can be listed internationally on international stocks. In Uganda, I don't think we've had such cases so far, but as our markets grow, we might have to actually explore and see if companies could list on London Stock Exchange or New York Stock Exchange. Of course, the requirements are quite stringent, and they're quite demanding for a stock to be listed on such stock exchanges, because you're competing with multinational companies with a very, very high stake. And so you must be really up in your game. However, coming back to Kibo Energy, it's incorporated and headquartered in Galway, Ireland, and Kibo Energy is positioned to address the acute power deficit, which is in one of the primary impediments to economic development in sub-Saharan Africa. Remember, in South Africa, there's been a power shortage recently, and energy costs have been quite high, with so many people coming in to help. But of course, Kibo Energy is one of those companies contributing to the power supply in sub-Saharan Africa to see that we maintain a very strong power supply within the sub-Saharan African countries. To this end, it is the company's objective to become a leading independent power producer within the region. Now, Kibo Breweries, rather Kibo Energies, I always refer to Kibo Breweries because of the Tanzanian brewery there under East African Breweries Limited. But Kibo Energy in South Africa currently has a stake of at least 113 million South African rand. That is their total capitalization, the market capitalization they have currently, and represents about 0.0006% of the entire Johannesburg Stock Exchange equity market. Currently, their stock price is at 0.03 South African rand from after a rise of 0.01. That is on Friday. And this was the biggest gain. Of course, due to the smaller price ranges, you have quite big movements that are influenced by even the slightest change in price. That is at Kibo Energy. Currently, the stock is still quite stagnant when you look at their year-to-date performance at 25% losses, and 3 months performance as well, 25% losses. However, in terms of trade, they are the 37th most traded on stock, which is quite interesting. Out of 422 stocks, to be the 37th traded on is not quite some easy feat. Now, on the stock exchange as well, in the last 3 months, they have recorded at least over 145 million shares that have been traded on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. That's it from Kibo Energies. This was the biggest gainer on the South African market. Moving on, there was Delta Property Fund that appreciated at least 15.79%. This is also another interesting company. You know, when we want to invest in stocks, it's like a cookie jar. When you have a cookie jar and you want to pick out the best cookie, sometimes you want to pick out the biggest cookie or the tastiest cookie. You sometimes take chances. And so as investors, we must know what's happening to these companies before we get to invest. And when you want to become a multi-faceted investor, you want to become a diversified investor, you must look outside the box. You must look outside your comfort zone. So if you're still looking at just trading on the Uganda Stock Exchange, you better look ahead. You must be aggressive when it comes to investment. You must be able to diversify and explore other lands. Now, Delta Property Fund was the second biggest gainer. And this is a property portfolio domiciled in South Africa. The fund's objective is to achieve maximum total return on capital costing of both the current income and, of course, the capital gains, and, of course, consistent with the diversified risk-managed real estate investment portfolio by investing in non-government offices as well as retail and industrial properties. Delta is a dominant sovereign listed property on the South African market and is black managed and, of course, with its level 2 contributor to the South African market. Delta Property Fund engages in long-term investment in rental generating properties. It operates through the following segments, that is the retail, the office government, the office other and industrial, as well as head office. Delta Property Fund currently holds about, 157 million South African rand in terms of market capitalization, meaning it is the 357th most valuable company on the South African market. Delta Property Fund yesterday, but one, that is on Friday, at least added 0.33 South African rand to their price and closed off the day with 0.22 South African rand after a gain of 15.79%. Now, this is an interesting gain because they traded just 99,526 shares to realize this gain at 21,300 South African rand there on the South African market. Elsewhere, Labat Africa at least appreciated 14.29%. The Grand Parade investment at least added 10.85%. And that was it from the topmost gainers. On the losing side, we had Ashon. At least Ashon lost the end of day price with an end of day price depreciation of 15.9%, and this was down to 5.25 South African rand per share on the market. Now, the biggest participants in the market, looking at the biggest participants, were Finbond Group, which had the highest volume of over 74.4 million shares that were traded. Now, Finbond is a group leading in the North American and South African financial services institution that specializes in design and delivery of unique value and solution-based savings, credit, and insurance solutions tailored around depositor and borrower requirements rather than the institutionalized policy and practices there in South Africa. Now, you have the current market capitalization starting at least 291 million South African rand, and that means they are the 324th most valuable. However, they were the biggest traders yesterday after closing off the day, however, as gainers at 0.01 South African rand depreciation, closing off at 0.33 South African rand. That is Finbond for you there in South Africa. Now, looking at the Pepka Holdings, they also recorded a big volume, over 28.9 million shares. We also had the Fast Rand at 24.1 million shares and Redefined Properties at 17.6 million shares. Regarding the performance of the Johannesburg Stock Exchange market indices, the benchmark index, the J203, is paired about 79.10 points, down to 76,936 points, closing off the day. That's it from South Africa. Coming back to East Africa, of course, we're skipping Uganda for now because Ugandan market was closed on Friday due to National Heroes Day, which was a public holiday. And as per the listing rules, markets are always closed on public holidays in Uganda. But Nairobi Securities Exchange, on the other hand, actually lost some value on their benchmark index, the all-share index, by 0.67 points. However, the day's trade was characterized by a decline as well in the volume at 5% decline and 35% decline in the turnover, as well as 5% decline in the deals. Market capitalization currently stands at 1.65 trillion Kenyan shillings there on the markets here in Nairobi. At least 50 equities participated in trade and ended the day with 29 gainers and over 15 losers. Sanlam Kenya led the gainers with an 8.82% appreciation in price and closed the day with 7.90 Kenyan shillings per share. Now, who is Sanlam? Sanlam, of course, is an insurance company, just like here in Uganda. We have, of course, a subsidiary of Sanlam. And Sanlam is a Kenyan-based holding company. The principal activity of Sanlam is through its subsidiary, Pan Africa Life Assurance, that is underwriting of all is the underwriting of all asset classes of long-term insurance businesses, as well as the exception of industrial life assurance. Sanlam Kenya currently holds about about 1.14 billion Kenyan shillings on the market, and this at least represents 0.069% of the entire market capitalization there of the equity market in Nairobi. Now, on Friday, they had just about 200 shares traded and closed off with 1,580, Kenyan shillings that was traded on the market. And in their weekly performance, there was an improvement of 10.6% last week at Sanlam. Besides Sanlam, we did have the Olympia Capital Holdings as well appreciate by about 7.21%, and the TPS East African Serena at 6.44% appreciation, whereas the Home Africa company at least added 6.06%. And on the losing side, Liberty Kenya Holdings came out at the bottom with an end-of-day price depreciation of at least 9.38%, down to 4.35 Kenyan shillings per share. The Samia Africa stock at least also lost 9.16%, whereas the Ever Ready East Africa at least lost 8.99% as well. In as far as the volumes are concerned, there was a little bit of surprise there on Nairobi Securities Exchange, with the Cooperative Bank of Kenya coming on top of the table with a volume of 1.27 million shares that were traded, followed by Equity. Yes, Equity Bank or Equity Group Holdings there came in also as a big volume trader with 1.01 million shares, whereas the Safaricom stock unfortunately came in the third place. But let's see what Safaricom is up to right now. Remember, Safaricom has been on a losing spree since the month of since October last year. Generally speaking, the stock has been going down. And when you look at yesterday, rather Friday trading, we had a loss of 0.15 Kenyan shillings of Safaricom, down to 16.45 Kenyan shillings at a 0.9% movement. Now, Safaricom in the longer run, in 2 weeks, has lost 2.06%. However, the monthly performance has improved by 12.9% appreciation, meaning at least in the month, we have at least have some bit of value gain there from the Safaricom stock on the Nairobi Securities Exchange. In 3 months, they're still on a loss of 20.8%. Well, one of the problems was an influx, of course, of foreign investors. You see, foreign investors are always sensitive and sentimental. When you have anything happening in the market, they easily pull out. And usually they have huge amounts of cash invested in these companies. So anytime they pull out, the company feels the pinch. The pinch is there because there's absolutely nothing that they can do to hold back, because it's a lot of things to take in. When you look at stocks like KCB Bank, when you look at stocks like Equity Group Holdings, you'll find like 50% of the shareholders are foreign investors, which is quite unfortunate, because as Africans, we need to take our possession of our own. If we don't, other markets will control us. In other words, if the treasury bond market goes high in America, all the Americans will move out, or even other foreign investors move into that market. And that, of course, continues to harm our own market. So we need to have more local investment. And this is where we want to call upon you, our dear viewers, to be able to invest. Invest in our own markets, invest in our brands, invest in our stock exchanges. We have several options for you. You can go across to Nairobi, you can go to Dar es Salaam, you can go to Rwanda Stock Exchange. Here in Uganda, we do have the Uganda Stock Exchange. Invest. Invest for long term, invest with a vision, and invest, of course, with the aim of getting to diversify your portfolio as much as you can, so that you alleviate the risk that comes from lack of diversification. That's it, my friend. Uganda markets are now open. Yes, Friday was off, Saturday we were off, Sunday we were off, so now we are back to business. I hope you get to take advantage, of course, of this and get to start investing. You can reach out to your stockbroker. For those of you who are new traders, you can be able to open an account. The SCD account is free of charge. All you need to do is to go to USE and go to the portal called Easy Portal, and then you register using your email and your other personal details at absolutely no cost. So you can be rest assured that you're not going to invest your first day, okay? If you want to learn more, you can always visit us on our website, www.smart24tv.com, or keep watching Financial Markets for your daily analysis of the market here. The show is proudly brought to you by Otex East Africa and Zabu, where we're saying we can invest with, of course, Zabu to get to look at for the treasury bond markets by simply dialing *292# and following the prompts. Otex East Africa is your #1 trading platform and brings you the treasury bond market at the most affordable prices. There you have it, my friend. It's a Monday, and I wish you a very, very lovely week ahead. Stay tuned on Smart 24 TV. A lot more business coming up, UG to call it, and Skill Up, and a couple of other very, very fascinating business shows. My name is Anthony once again. See you tomorrow. Have a good day.